Let's go to Annalise Nielsen and Paul Murray, and that trend has continued for Donald Trump. More good news for him in a range of states, as Laura rightly pointed out, North Carolina and Georgia. But then you head to the blue wall, and it's make or break there for Harris.
Yeah, look, Harris really can't win without Pennsylvania. So, Paul, what are your spidey senses telling you?
Yeah, look. The blue wall, he is heading up there with a sledgehammer, and he's going to start knocking some bricks out in the next hour. The path is very narrow for her right now. The predictions, the trends, the lift in Black and Hispanic, the decisions when it comes to independence. I'm not going to say it now, but I'm almost going to say it. It's very close to us getting to a stage where we're going to have a real sense of what's going to happen. And the fact that, by the way, is it's not even, 11 o'clock here. Polls had closed, 3-4 hours ago in some parts. The election in 2020 was called on a Saturday, and that's because places like Georgia, North Carolina, the margins were so tight that we were waiting. I think he's won Georgia. I think he's won North Carolina. I think that what we're seeing out of Pennsylvania is that at this moment he's winning Pennsylvania. However, if he doesn't win Pennsylvania but is able to get a Michigan or a Wisconsin, and I think that one of those is going to fall his way tonight, then she doesn't have a path. There's no other way for her to get there. So, again, I'm not going to say it, but I'm almost going to say it.
I think, I don't know why, but I've had the sense coming into this it wouldn't take that long.
No,
and we've been talking about this for a long time because there could still be challenges. We could still be wrong with this. And we're already seeing something coming out of Georgia that might drag out the count. And
there's this weird scenario where there's about 1 million votes at the moment that supposedly either need to be recounted or retabulated. That said, he's up by about 800,000 votes. So 80% of a remaining 1 million is not going to fall his way. Now, again, I'm not trying to supersede the judgment of much more learned people and people like Tom in and around the numbers. It's just, I can probably start to take a leap with where I think it's going before we're going to actually start to be able to say this bit, this county. And again, I'm very much led by some of those prediction scenarios where, again, for Clinton, it started at 99 and it works its way down. If you start at 50, it only ever builds up. It doesn't dramatically turn away from there. But I think something we really have to talk about here is a couple of grossly underreported potential changes that have been decisive at this point to where Harris is only down at 117. Obviously she gets California, obviously she's going to get Oregon, Washington, Illinois, so that number gets pretty high pretty quickly for her. But it is those independent voters, and Annalise, I'm fascinated to ask you, the media, the broad media narrative was that there was this chaotic last 10 days, that the unfitness for the president, all of these things were starting to bubble up. We even saw exit polls suggesting that, democracy was starting to move high towards the list. Those independents, when you've spoken to people who register as saying, I'm not a team red and I'm not a team blue, are they the types of people who are sitting there and flipping a coin right up until the day, or because they are a little more open-minded than the official Teamsters, well, not invoke the union, but you get my point. Give me an idea about an independent voter registered in this country.
Well, I mean, even speaking of the unions, they weren't all for Kamala this time.
Well, the bosses sort of wouldn't go for her because 60% of the workers were going for Trump.
Yeah, but what I think a lot of people close to politics and in the media miss is that most people hate politics and most people hate politicians. So they get this idea.
You hate the media too.
Yeah, it comes up a lot, trust me. And so when you talk to people that hate Donald Trump, some people can't compute that you would still vote for him if you hate him. And what we hear from people is my 401k was better, my cost of living was better, I used to go on 2 holidays a year and now I don't go on 2 holidays a year. Yeah. I can't afford the credit card debt I racked up during the pandemic. And there's been this push from the Democrats that people should like their candidate, that Kamala Harris was likable. And for a lot of people, she's just a politician. She's someone who came up through the ranks as a prosecutor, which is a kind of political role in America. They represent a party, and prosecutors aren't popular. That was one thing I really wondered throughout this whole campaign. How is a prosecutor going to land? Because a lot of innocent people get caught up in the US system and just plead their way out because it's the only way out. And so they're not generally well-respected, regarded people.
Well, as we know, a single conversation is scientific, can be taken to the bank, is 100% as good as a master's degree. I was talking to a bloke who is doing pretty well, owns a whole bunch of dealerships of tractors and all the rest of it out in rural Virginia.
Yeah.
He's an African-American man and he's all in on Harris. His 27-year-old son, all in on Trump. Why? Because his son lives in the ecosystem of the internet, right? Where for a certain percentage of young African-American men, they have seen, slowly but surely, through podcasts, Twitter and the rest of it, that the mention is that, you know, don't just go along with what your parents do, be free, vote in whichever way you want. That's, again, not talking to those gender and race definitions, but more so the economic ones. And what was really interesting was, if we get where I think we're going, Barack Obama waving his finger at young African-American men deserves to be put in the Hall of Fame of dumb things to do if you think you have a close race. Because that was a moment that rang so loudly across the internet, far louder, I'm going to say it, than the Puerto Rican joke yelled its way across some of the television airwaves. And again, if we're going where I think we're going, his role in that, and also the Democratic idea that if you roll out Michelle Obama, if you roll out Barack Obama, if you roll out Oprah, that these are sort of the faux leaders of the African-American community. Okay, yeah, for some, absolutely true. But for a very significant group of other people, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of influencers on the internet that you and I have never heard of, who these people take to heart way more than Barack Obama.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, with the story you were telling about that man with the son, again, not very scientific. I went out for lunch on Saturday by myself, talked to the waiter. He was a consultant at a Big Four firm and a waiter.
Yeah, yes,
because that's his cost of living.
Yep.
And I was, you know, like everyone in sales here has to be always positive. So it took like a bit of goading where I was like, no, seriously, why are you waiting on the weekend? And he was like, cost of living is biting me on the ass.
Yeah, well, every time you jump in an Uber, you have a chat. Is this the main game or is this the side hustle? It's always the side hustle and the job that somebody does through the week. I mean, literally people working at airports who then, in the morning, and then for the rest of the day will go and work at the family spray painting place. Again, another example of an unscientific conversation that you have with someone. And these are not people, because I'm walking around wearing a MAGA hat, who want to talk this stuff. You try to present yourself to say, okay, how are you feeling? What are you doing? And rather than arrogantly turning around like most of the media does, which is just simply, who are you voting for, try and work out their life circumstances, and then, if they tell you, you'll know why they are going the way they are. But again, watch these numbers. I think, in my view, I think we're getting close. The reports right now are that President Trump is about to be leaving Mar-a-Lago, making his way towards the convention centre. Now, it's too early for him to do that. It is too early for him to...
He's going to do it.
Of course, it's too early for him to flip it and say, here we are, we've won. But that's important if he's going to be moving from watching it by himself and now potentially getting close to that party where the MAGA hats, I think, sooner rather than later, will start being thrown in the air.
I know we have to throw back, but Paul, I just can't stop thinking about Joe Biden. Down the street, there'd be a part of him watching all of this thinking, if they'd only kept me in.
In fairness to him, he's watching a replay of the 2020 election.